Hi there, it's Jeannie Rainey. Welcome back to my craft room, where today we're doing the Butterfly Brilliance Focus Friday. You can see we're starting out with our die cutting, and I'm using our watercolor paper, which is a little thicker. So in that it's thicker, the little bits are going to stay intact. Now, if they seem to want to fall out, you can use your press and seal to hold everything together. Then I used my tear and tape on the back to hold all the pieces together, and that will help when I'm ready to adhere to my card front. We're going to watercolor with our water painters today, and I'm using an acrylic block as my palette. So you squeeze the brush, there's a spot that tells you where to push to get the water out. And if you find that you need more water, you can use your spritzer. I recommend the spritzer if you need more water. Some of the ink containers will allow you to use the lid as a palette, but the newer ones are more firm. It's harder to press and get the ink onto the lid. This is one of the old ink pads, so I was able to use it as a palette. So the colors we're using are Pool Party, Daffodil Delight, Highland Heather, Flirty Flamingo, and Granny Apple Green. And then we're going to heat emboss a background here using our polka dot mask. I'm going to use the Versamark. Be sure and push real hard so that it goes all the way through the mask onto the paper. And then I'm going to use white embossing powder and heat it. The paper color, this cardstock is Sahara Sand. Then I'm also going to heat emboss the sentiment in white onto black cardstock. When you heat emboss, you use your embossing buddy first, then the Versamark, then the powder, then you heat. Then I just trimmed it up. I'm going to use a foil sheet for some embellishments. Now, when you use your foil sheets, sometimes you need to use a piece of cardstock to make sure that some of the foil is flat. Sometimes when you use an older cutting pad over the top, they leave marks in your foil, so you can just use a piece of cardstock over the top to flatten out the foil. Then I'm using my Take Your Pick tool, which is so handy in picking up little bits of paper to help quicken your project along. This bundle is so fantastic because it comes with so many dies. There's 12 dies altogether, and the stamp is just one stamp. It is a background stamp. I recommend buying two, and that way you can cut one of them up and use them individually. So here I'm just layering my butterflies onto the card front. ready to put my card front onto my base. There you go, lots of colors. Then I'm going to heat emboss again. This time I'm just using one butterfly, so I'll put the Versamark just on the one butterfly and put my paper over the top and rub. Make sure I get it all the way rubbed so that the Versamark get a good coverage there. And then we're using the black embossing powder, and I always keep a little paintbrush handy in case there's powder where I don't want the powder to be on my project. And then I'm coloring with the blends. I love the blends because they're so bright. The way the blends work best is when you do it quickly, and they work best when they're wet to blend colors together. I'm using Real Red here and Daffodil Delight. After I get this colored, I'll die cut it. And then I'm going to use my stamp and make a background. I'm using Night of Navy ink, and Seaside Spray is the cardstock that I'm using, and I cut it out with the stitched rectangles. Then I'm going to take some twine and I'm going to color it with the Seaside Spray color and a dauber, sponge dauber. So I'm just dipping it in the ink and coloring my twine, but it went real slow for me, so I went ahead and got my blend out, and the blend worked so much quicker. So then I trimmed off the edges of the sentiment and wrapped my twine and attached it basically with the dimensionals, and then using the dimensionals on my butterfly to adhere to my card front. I also cut out with the largest stitched circle of vellum and attach the vellum first, then the butterfly over the top, and then one more layer of cardstock before I put it onto my card base. Then ready to put it on my base. There you go. All right, now for the next card, we're using Mambo Melon, making a background. And then we're going to bring in the cutout to use as a stencil of the butterflies, and we'll be using our blender brush and Blushing Bride ink color. And I'm holding the paper underneath so it doesn't slide around. And there, whoops, I guess I'm done. It turned out nice. Okay, so now this is one of the older ink pad, so I'm able to use the lid as a palette, and I am just going to spritz some of the color over the top. Alright, then we're going to heat emboss, and this is Mary Merlot cardstock. We're going to heat emboss with white. And then I'm going to use a punch. We're going to cut, the punch is the Timeless Label punch. And braided linen trim in Mossy Meadow color. I'm going to tie a bow. I usually do bunny ears and then tie them in a knot. Ready to layer. You can see I got some texture on my first layer, and that is one of the pieces that's in the die set that comes several extra pieces for embellishing backgrounds. The little bricks from the first card came from the dies as well. So a lot of times there's a lot more than you actually see in the dies or the stamps. Then I'm going to embellish with the iridescent pearls, and I think these go with the Blushing Bride card and the Seaside spray. So we'll just use this on both of these cards, and I'm not going to use it on the first one because I think the foil is enough bling for me. So it's the Butterfly Brilliance bundle. It comes with a lot of extra little pieces for you. I want you to see how you can die cut the designer series paper with the solid die. This makes for really quick card making. With the designer series paper, you get 8 pieces of 6 different designs. You get quite a lot with the designer paper. So it is the Butterfly Brilliance bundle. And the last card, you can find the video on the Stampin' Up! YouTube video for the last card. And thank you so much for joining my Focus Friday. I hope you will like and share my videos. Thanks.